Ok. Ajá. Entonces, lo primero que vamos a ver es lo del critical vocabulary aunque esto es el essential question, no. De idea word, esto tampoco. Ajá, lo primero que vamos a hacer es ver el critical vocabulary de la historia de The Wonder. Entonces, ajá. Ok. This is the first thing. Ok. Nuestra primera palabra es impulsive. Ah, ajá, entonces nuestra primera palabra es impulsive. Significa someone who is impulsive does things without thinking about them carefully. ¿Ok? Sí, básicamente es, por ejemplo, uno dice como que, no, eres un comprador impulsivo. You're an impulsive buyer. Significa que no piensas las cosas dos veces o you don't think things through before doing them. A ver, pues, she's an impulsive shopper who buys things on a whim. O sea, es algo que no piensas dos veces en hacerlo. Y que, ay, esto me gusta. That's impulsive. That's an impulse, ¿ok? A ver, luego la siguiente palabra significa motley. Motley is a group that a motley group has members that are all very different from one another. A ver, si yo tengo un grupo donde, a ver, estoy yo, está, eh, no sé, mi primo, mi tío, o sea, es un grupo muy diferente. Okay, that's what motley means, when they're very different from one another, a nivel de a nivel de personalidad, a nivel de todo. Okay, eso no significa motley. Se refiere a un grupo que tiene miembros donde todos son muy diferentes uno del otro. Okay, our next word significa frets. Frets is someone who frets about something, worries about it. Okay, he frets whenever he is about to take a test. Okay, por ejemplo, aquí podemos poner que Valerie frets whenever she's taking a test. Frets es que te pones nervioso, te preocupa, ok, es más preocupar. Frets significa que algo que te preocupa. A ver, ¿qué era impulsive? Ok, ok, durante el video voy a hacer como voy a hacer preguntas donde lo ideal sería que pausaran el video y respondieran y entonces yo les doy la respuesta. A ver, question number 1, what was impulsive? Entonces, impulsive era when you don't think too much about things. You do things without thinking about them carefully. Okay? ¿Qué era motley? Motley is when you have a group that members are very different from one another. Okay? Dice, the box was filled with a motley collection of toy vehicles. Todo, o sea que aquí están hablando de una colección de carros que eran muy diferentes una de las otras. Ok, ¿qué significaba frets? When you worry about something, ok? No se preocupa uno por algo. Aquí.
Slew, noun. A slew is a lot of something. Our dog has a slew of tennis balls to play with.
Ok, entonces aquí decimos slew is when you have a lot of something. Por ejemplo, yo puedo decir I have a slew of markers. We have many of them. That's what it means. Well, that's what slew means. A ver, luego tenemos extensive. Something that is extensive is a far-reaching of cover. Is far-reaching or covers a large area, ¿ok? Entonces, extensive, algo grande, algo extenso. Dice, the store had an extensive selection of shoes. Entonces, algo grande es extenso. Esas son las dos palabras, ¿ok? Algo grande. O far-reaching es que alcanza, ay Dios, es que alcanza mucho. Luego tenemos trial. When you take a trial run, you test or practice something before you actually do it. Ok, yo pienso el ejemplo perfecto de esto es cuando nos dicen que, bueno, tienes un free trial. Vamos a decir que yo tengo una aplicación paga y yo te doy a ti un free trial. Un free trial es una prueba gratis por una cierta cantidad de tiempo. Ok, eso es lo que significa trial. When you test it before you do something. Luego tenemos scraggly o scraggle.
Scraggly,
Scraggle.
adjective. Something that is scraggly is messy or raggedy looking. The dog has scraggly fur and needs a bath and haircut.
Okay, entonces dice, something that is scraggly is messy, algo desordenado, or raggedy looking. Entonces aquí están hablando del pelaje de un perro. The dog has a scraggly fur and needs a bath and haircut. Coordination.
Coordination, noun. If you have good coordination, you are able to move smoothly and efficiently. You need good hand-eye coordination to play tennis.
Okay, esta palabra se aprende mucho del español, so this one should be easy. Is when you have coordination and you're able to move slowly and efficiently. O sea, tienes coordinación. Es algo que puedes hacer de manera fácil y eficiente. And then la última, warping.
Warping, verb. If something is warping something, it is distorting it or twisting it out of shape. The funhouse mirror is warping their reflections.
Okay. So dice warping is distorting or twisting it out of shape. So por ejemplo, vamos a decir, I have this page. Warping significa que yo haga warping, que ya no tiene su forma original, ¿ok? La distorsioné. Okay. Hay una actividad en el libro que siempre pienso que es chévere. Que, a ver. Interactive. Una cosa que era que interactive. Weekly vocabulary cards. Interactive journal, no. Interactive, no. Interactive selection quizzes. Creo que no está aquí. Okay, whatever. Let's keep on going. Okay. Entonces vamos a escuchar la historia, yo voy a hacer unas pausas y vamos a luego, obviamente, mientras estamos leyendo, ir respondiendo bueno, vamos a escuchar toda la historia y luego al final vamos a responder las preguntas de la guía.
The Wanderer.
Voy a poner el highlight on para que puedan seguir la lectura. Ok, voy a poner un poquito más de eso.
By Sharon Creech. Illustrated by Pepe Botella. So the story of The Wanderer is that the main character, Sophie, was in a boating accident with her parents as a young kid. They died. She survived and was eventually, at age 10, adopted. Now she's going on a trip across the Atlantic with her 3 adoptive uncles and 2 cousins. The cousins know she's adopted, but Sophie is weirdly in denial about it and talks about her adoptive parents and grandfather Bompy as though she's known them her whole life. This puzzles her cousins. What really happened is sort of a mystery that unfolds over the course of the novel.
Okay, first pause. Aquí tenemos something important. The main character is called Sophie. Voy a highlight it. Si tiene, okay, eso no se ve nada. Let's do that instead. Okay, yo voy a highlight it. You should also highlight it in your book. O sea, pueden subrayarlo, circularlo, algo, hacerle una flechita, algo así. Okay, another important thing, dice que her parents were in a boating accident. Y ella fue la única que sobrevivió. This is also important. So we're gonna do this here. Voy a resaltar. Okay. Y que ella fue adoptada. Algo interesante dice que es que los primos de Sophie talks about her adoptive parents, no sus papás obviamente biológicos, her adoptive parents, as if she knew them, as if she had known them for their whole life. O sea, ella habla como si ella los conociera toda su vida. Her 3 uncles, y que ella va a viajar con her 3 uncles and 2 cousins. Y a futuro vamos a ver cómo se llama acá. Okay, we're gonna go to the next page.
Three sides. Sophie. I am not always such a dreamy girl, listening to the sea calling me. My father calls me three-sided Sophie. One side is dreamy and romantic, one is logical and down-to-earth, and the third side is hard-headed and impulsive. He says I am either in dreamland or earthland or muleland, and if I ever get the three together, I'll be all set, though I wonder where I will be then. If I am not in dreamland or earthland or muleland, where will I be? My father says my logical side is most like him, and the dreamy side most like my mother, which isn't entirely fair, I don't think. My father likes to think of himself as a logical man, but he is the one who pores over pictures of exotic lands and says things like, "We should go on a safari," and "We should zip through the air in a hot air balloon." And although my mother is a weaver and spins silky cloths and wears flowing dresses, she is the one who gives me sailing textbooks and makes me study water safety and weather prediction and says things like, "Yes, Sophie, I taught you to sail, but that doesn't mean I like the idea of you being out there alone on the water. I want you to stay home, here, with me, safe." My father says he doesn't know who my hard-headed mule side resembles. He says mules don't run in the family. I am 13, and I am going to sail across the ocean. Although I would like to go alone, flying over the water, I'm not. Impulsive. Someone who is impulsive does things without thinking about them carefully first. My mule self begged a place aboard.
Okay, I'm going to make a pause. First thing that you need to know is, acá dice three sides Sophie. Esto viene en la guía de estudio, but we're going to answer it anyways here. Dice, I am not always such a dreamy girl listening to a sea calling me. Aquí está la parte dice, my father calls me three-sided Sophie. One side is dreamy and romantic, one is logical and down to earth, and the third is hard-headed and impulsive. Okay, so I want you to highlight that because that's important. Dice que el papá dice que ella puede estar en tres mundos. Dice she can be either in dreamland, I'm gonna highlight that, earthland, or muleland. Okay, entonces dice que ella puede estar en dreamland. Dreamland es como, no sé, como sueñolandia, algo así, pues que estás en un sueño. Y luego dice earthland and muleland. ¿Qué otra cosa aquí interesante? No, that's it. We're going to keep listening.
A 45-foot sailboat with a motley crew, 3 uncles and 2 cousins. The uncles, Stu, Mo, and Doc, are my mother's brothers, and she told them, if the slightest harm comes to my Sophie, I'll string you all up by your toes. She isn't worried, although maybe she should be, about the influence of my cousin Brian, quiet, studious, serious Brian, but she frets over the bad habits I might learn from my other cousin, Cody. Cody is loud, impulsive, and charming in a way my mother does not trust. He's too charming, she says, in a dangerous sort of way. My mother isn't the only person who is not thrilled for me to take this trip. My uncles Stu and Mo tried their best to talk me out of it. It's going to be a bunch of us guys doing guy things, and it wouldn't be a very pleasant place for a girl. And wouldn't you rather stay home, Sophie, where you could have a shower every day? And it's a lot of hard work. And yakety-yak they went. But I was determined to go, and my mule self kicked in, spouting a slew of sailing and weather terms, battering them over the head with all the things I'd learned in my sailing books, and with some things I'd made up for good measure. Uncle Doc, the good uncle I call him, because he's the one who doesn't see any harm in my coming, said, "Heck, she knows more about boats than Brian and Cody put together." And so they caved in. There are 2 other reasons my mother has not tied me to my bed and refused to let me go. The first is that Uncle Doc gave her an extensive list of the safety provisions aboard the boat, which include a satellite navigator, the global positioning system. The second reason, not a very logical one, but one that somehow comforts my mother, is that Bumpy is on the other side of the ocean. We will end up in Bumpy's arms, and she wishes she could join us, just for that moment. Motley. A motley group has members that are all very different from one another. Frets. Someone who frets about something, worries about it. Slew. A slew is a lot of something. Extensive. Something that is extensive is far-reaching or covers a wide range of details.
Okay, entonces, the other question that could be asked is, who did Sophie travel with? Entonces, she traveled with, eso es lo que habíamos mencionado anteriormente, her 3 uncles and 2 cousins here, and then their uncles está Stu, Mo, and Doc, que eran sus tíos por parte de mamá. And then the 2 cousins are Brian and Cody. Okay, those are the people that Sophie traveled with. Entonces, okay, another question could be, what are the 2 reasons why Sophie's mother was okay with her traveling or going on this trip? What are the 2 reasons Sophie's mother was okay with her going on this trip? Y aquí están. The first is that Uncle Doc gave her an extensive list of provisions aboard the boat, okay? Que le habían dado una lista extensa de provisiones de seguridad que había en el bote, incluyendo a satellite navigator. And then the second reason is that la mamá pensaba que Bumpy estaba al otro lado del océano. Okay, our next question would be, who is Bumpy? But we're going to find out in the next page. Oh, wait.
Bumpy is my grandfather, my mother's father, and also Uncle Doc, Stu, and Mo's father, and he lived with my parents for many years. He is like a third parent, and I love him because he is so like me. He is a man of 3 sides, like me, and he knows what I am thinking without my having to say it. He is a sweet man with a honey tongue, and he is a teller of tales. At the age of 72, Bumpy decided to go home. I thought he was already in his home, but what he meant by home was the place where he was born, and that place was the rolling green hills of England. My father was wrong about mules not running in the family. When Bumpy decided to return to England, nothing was going to stop him. He made up his mind, and that was that, and off he went. Bye-bye, Bumpy. Afloat. Sophie. We have begun. Last night, when we sailed by the stars along the Connecticut coastline on a trial run, I thought my heart would leap out into the sky. Overhead, all was velvety blue-black, pierced with pearly stars, and blending into shimmery black ocean. The smell of the sea, the feel of the wind on your face and your arms, the flapping of the sails, oh, it was magic. Trial. When you take a trial run, you test or practice something before you actually do it. We are really on the way. The sea is calling, calling, sail on, and the gentle rocking of the wanderer makes me think of Bumpy. Was it Bumpy? Holding me on his lap when I was young, whispering stories into the air. The first leg of our journey will take us through Long Island Sound to Block Island, and then a short hop on to Martha's Vineyard, a loop around Cape Cod and up the northern coast, and then on to Nova Scotia, and finally the long stretch to Ireland and to England, land of Bumpy. Uncle Doc estimates that it will take us 3 to 4 weeks, depending on how long we stop when we spy land. Cody is keeping a journal too, only he calls it a dog. When I first heard him say that, I said, "You mean a log?" He said, "No, a dog log." He said he is keeping this dog log because he has to, for a summer project. It was either that or read 5 books, he said. I figure it'll be a lot easier keeping a dog log than reading all those words somebody else wrote. Uncle Doc maintains the official captain's log, and in the front of it are neat maps that chart our journey. Uncle Stu and Brian said they'd be too busy to record the highlights, and when I asked Uncle Mo if he was going to keep any sort of record of the trip, he yawned. "Oh," he said, tapping his head. "I'll keep it all in here, and maybe I'll sketch a few things." "You mean draw? You can draw?" "Don't sound so surprised," he said. I was surprised, because it doesn't seem like he has the energy to do much of anything. We all have daily chores from Brian's list and duty watches, and Uncle Stu came up with the idea that each of us has to teach something along the way. "Like what?" Cody asked. "Anything. Navigating by instruments, by stars." "Right," Cody said. "Easy for you, but what if we don't know any of that stuff?" "You must know something you could teach us," Uncle Stu said, with a little smirk.
Okay. A ver, if you were to be asked, si les preguntan, what is Sophie's destination? Where is she traveling to? What would be the answer? Okay, the answer would be England. They were going to England. Let's continue.
"How about juggling?" Cody said. "I could teach you all how to juggle." "Juggle?" Brian said. "Doofus," Cody's father said. "I'd like to learn how to juggle," I said. "I bet it's not as easy as it looks." "What's juggling got to do with anything?" Brian asked. "Well, if you think it'd be too hard for you," Cody said. "Who said anything about hard? I could juggle. It just seems a stupid thing to learn on a boat." "I'm not sure yet what I could teach, but I'll think of something. We have to decide by tonight." The weather is perfect today, sunny and warm. The current is with us, and the wind has been gently nudging us toward the hazy cliffs of Block Island. I've been to Block Island before, once, but I don't remember who it was with. My parents and grandfather? I remember walking on top of a big hill with lush purple and yellow flowers and scraggly brush growing around the rocks. And I remember the old blue pickup truck with lawn chairs in the back and riding along narrow lanes, staring out at the ocean and singing, "Oh, here we are on the island of Block in a big blue pickup truck." My grandfather bought me a captain's cap, which I wore every day. We went clamming at night, and I scouted airplanes in the cottage loft. And every summer after that, I longed to return to Block Island, but we never did. There wasn't time. I've thought of something I could teach my boat family. The stories that Bumpy taught me. Doc and Cody have just caught 2 bluefish. Success! But I didn't like watching Cody club and gut them. We're all going to have to do this, though. It's one of the rules. It's my turn next, and I don't want to do it. But the bluffs of Block Island are in sight, and the bluefish is filleted for lunch, and I am hungry. Scraggly. Something that is scraggly is messy or raggedy-looking. Slugs and bananas. Cody. My father is driving me bananas. He lies around like a slug and doesn't help with anything, and barks orders right and left. Sophie is lucky. She doesn't have any parents to bug her. Uncle Stu said the only reason she's on this trip is because Uncle Doc took pity on the orphan. That's what Uncle Stu calls Sophie, the orphan. I want to slug him when he calls her that. Sophie talks about my aunt and uncle as if they are her real parents, even though they are only her adopted parents, and she's only been with them 3 years. Brian says Sophie lives in a dream world, but I think it's kind of neat that she does that. At least she isn't sitting around moping about being an orphan. Sometimes I wish I were an orphan, because my father is a big crab, And my mother is afraid of him and always hiding in the corner, looking pitiful. But I guess I'm not supposed to write about stuff like that in this dog log. I guess I'm supposed to write about the journey and all that. We started it, the journey, I mean. Amazing. I thought we were going to be stuck on land forever, what with Brian coming up with new lists every day. That boy sure likes to make lists. So does his father. They're a real list-making team. Nothing is happening, except that the boat is actually sailing and not leaking too much or tipping over. Yet.
Okay. ¿Qué pausa podemos hacer aquí? Okay. Now Cody is the one talking. En esta parte de la historia, Cody is the one talking. Entonces dice, miren, aquí dice que Uncle Stu calls Sophie the orphan. Okay, la llama la huérfana, the orphan. Aquí Cody is complaining that his father that his father is driving him bananas, driving him bananas significa that it's making him crazy, okay? He lies around like a slug, eso significa como que si fuera un flojo, and doesn't help with anything. He just barks orders. O sea, lo único que hace es mandar y mandar y mandar. Okay, a ver, what else? Okay, I think that's good.
Juggling. Sophie. Later, we got our first juggling lesson from Cody. I thought he was a really good teacher because he started out very simply with just one thing to toss in the air. We were practicing with packets of pretzels. "This is stupid," Brian said. Uncle Mo was on watch, but he turned around to mutter, "Juggling? Geez." Then Cody had us toss 2 pretzel packets in the air, one from each hand. That was easy too. But when we added the 3rd pretzel packet, we were all fumbling and clumsy. Pretzels were zinging over the side of the boat. "It's all in the motion of your hands," Cody said. "Just get in a rhythm." "This is really stupid," Brian said. "It might help your coordination," Cody said. "What's wrong with my coordination?" It got ugly after that, so we stopped the juggling lesson. Brian and Uncle Doc are going over the charts and trying to catch the weather forecast on the radio. Tomorrow we leave for Nova Scotia, a straight ocean sail that should take 3 or 4 days, with no sight of land. No land! I can't imagine it. I can't think what it will be like to see nothing but ocean. Ocean all around. This will be our first big shakedown, yep, Uncle Doc said. Coordination. If you have good coordination, you are able to move smoothly and efficiently. Uncle Stu tapped his fingers on the table. Weather forecast doesn't sound too good. "Oh, what's a little weather?" Uncle Mo said. Blah, blah, blah. Cody. Stupid day. Stupid Brian was blah, blah, blahing about points of sail, as if he knows everything there is to know about everything. He doesn't know how to juggle, that's for sure. This morning, Brian said to me, "You like Sophie better than me, don't you?" I said, "Yep." Well, it's the truth. Tomorrow Sophie is going to tell the first of Pompey's stories. Now that ought to be interesting.
Okay. Okay, one question could be, what did Cody teach the others? What did Cody teach the others? He taught the others how to juggle. Okay, juggle significa como that's what it means to juggle. Okay, so juggling. And what else? Cody was excited to hear not Jody's, Sophie's story, que decía que mañana la iba a contar.
Shakedown. Sophie. I'm not really sure what day it is anymore. These duty watches are warping my sense of time. For the first couple days, there were two of us on a watch. I was paired with Uncle Doc, and we were on for 4 hours at a time, off for 8, then on for 4 more. 4 hours is a lot, especially when it's dark and every muscle in your body is tensed, listening, watching. Everyone else is asleep then, and you know it's only the two of you, keeping them safe. Out here, there isn't day and night, and then a new day. Instead, there are degrees of light and dark, merging and changing. It's like one long stream of time unfolding in front of you, all around you. There isn't really a yesterday or day before, which is weird, because then what is tomorrow? And what is last week or last year? And if there is no yesterday or last year or 10 years ago, then it must be all now. One huge, big, present thing. This makes me feel very strange, as if I could say, now I am 4, and by saying so, I could be 4 again. But that can't be. Not really. Can it? We've been sailing up through the Gulf of Maine toward Grand Manan Island in the Bay of Fundy, just west of Nova Scotia. Uncle Doc calls the wind a capricious lady because it comes in fits and starts. Yesterday, I still have to use words like yesterday because I don't know how else to talk about things that happened before. When we had a spell of fog, Uncle Doc recited a poem about fog creeping along on little cat feet. And as soon as he said that, that's what I saw when I looked out into the gray mist. Hundreds of little cat feet tiptoeing along. Warping. If something is warping something, it is distorting it or twisting it out of shape. Later, when the fog rolled along in deeper, darker clumps, I imagined great big tiger feet loping toward us. Soft, furry, graceful tiger feet. I had a mournful, lonely spell when I was on watch, peering through all that gray, and suddenly I didn't want to leave the shores of North America, to set off across the ocean, to be so far from land. But I didn't have long to be mournful, because the wind came up strong from the north, which meant we had to do a lot of tacking and heeling. The waves were huge, 6 to 8 feet, or at least I thought they were huge, but Uncle Stu called them baby waves. "You getting scared, Sophie?" Uncle Stu said. And it seemed as if he hoped I was scared. So I said, "No, I'm not a bit scared, not the least bit." I was scared, but I didn't want him to know it. Below deck, it was chaos. It was Cody's and my turn to cook lunch, and we had food sloshed all over the place. "Mind the mizzen pot! Hoist the flibbergibbet!" Cody shouted, as the pot's hot contents went sloshing over the side. "Cody, are you ever serious?" I said. He tossed a clamshell right in the soup. "Oh, brother," he said, "sooner or later, everybody asks me that." I guess it's a touchy subject. The Wanderer has had a few problems on her shakedown, leaks in the aft cabin, and water in the sump. We spend a lot of time crawling around looking for trouble and then trying to fix whatever's wrong. So far, we've been able to plug all the leaks. You don't feel too worried when you know you can get to land within an hour or two if you have to, or where there is enough boat traffic so that you can hail help easily. But once we set off from Nova Scotia, what will we do if we spring a major leak?
Okay, now, aquí están hablando de el shakedown, que es básicamente como que se puso medio turbio todo porque había como una tormenta. Okay, so that's what they're talking about here.
I don't want to think about that. I'd rather think about the good omens. Dolphins have visited us 3 times. They come in groups of 4 or 5 and swim alongside the boat. They usually come when we're sailing fast, whipping along. It's as if they're racing us. They play up in front of the bow, darting back and forth right below the water, only inches from the hull. They're the most graceful creatures I've ever seen, gliding through the water without any apparent effort, and then arching at the surface and raising their fins and backs out of the water. Cody calls them darlings. Here, dolphin darlings, over here! I always feel a little sad when they finally swim away, and Cody calls, "Bye-bye, dolphin darlings. Bye-bye." We've changed the shifts around in order to have 3 people on watch through the fog. Cody's on with us now. Right now, I'm bundled up in my foul-weather gear, watching the sun rise in front of us and the moon set at our stern. I'm tired and damp and desperately need a shower, but I am in heaven. I'm learning so much every day, and the more I learn, the more I realize how much more there is to know about sailing and water and navigation and weather. Today, Uncle Stu gave us a lesson in sextant readings. It's harder than I expected, and Uncle Stu and Brian keep scolding me and Cody, telling us we're not pulling our weight unless we learn how to do all this, because their lives might depend on the 2 of us. "You'd better hope your lives don't depend on me and Sophie," Cody joked. Uncle Stu got mad. "Not everything is funny, Cody, and when you're in the middle of that ocean, you'll be praying that if anything happens, everybody on board this boat will be capable of saving your hide. You could at least do the same for us." Yeah, I hear ya," Cody said, as he went below deck. Even Uncle Doc seemed annoyed at Cody this time. "I sure hope that boy gets serious about something," he said. "I had a dream last night, or was it in the afternoon, or the morning, or the day before, about being adrift in the ocean with no food, and we were all languishing on deck with no energy to do anything, and the boat was tossing and heaving around, and then a seagull flew overhead and landed on the boom, and Brian said, 'Kill it, kill it!' It's now about 2 in the afternoon, and the sun has broken through the clouds, and we're about 36 miles from Grand Banan. We're hoping to get there before dark. It's my watch now, so I'd better get busy." Bumpy and the car. Cody. Got yelled at for not understanding all the navigation gobbledygook. Got yelled at for joking around too much. Got yelled at for breathing. Well, almost. Sophie told her first Bumpy story today. It went something like this. When Bumpy was a young man, he lived on a farm, and his family was very poor. They didn't even have a car or a truck. But one day they traded 2 mules for a car. The only thing was, no one knew how to drive it. Bumpy had ridden in cars, though, and he didn't think it could be all that hard to drive one. So Bumpy volunteered to go to town to pick up the car and drive it home.
Okay. Here, one of the important things is that el dream de Sophie, aquí, okay, I had a dream last night about being adrift in the ocean with no food, and we were all languishing on deck with no energy to do anything, and the boat was tossing and waving around. Then a seagull es un pelícano. No, a seagull no es un pelícano. Un pelícano se dice pelican. A seagull es una gaviota. Flew overhead and landed on the boom. And Brian said, "Kill it, kill it." Okay, one of the questions in the study guide is, what was Sophie's dream about? Y por qué Brian quería matar a la gaviota? Okay, why did he want to kill the seagull? Esta es la última parte.
It was raining, raining, raining. You should hear Sophie tell a story. She really gets into it. You can almost feel the rain on your head when she tells it. You can feel it. You can smell it. It's really something. Anyway, Bumpy goes to pick up the car, and it's raining, raining, raining. He's driving home, and he gets to the place where he has to cross the creek. There's no bridge or anything. When they'd walked that way or ridden the mules, they'd always just waded across it. So Bumpy drives the car into the creek, But the water is rushing so fast, it's like a big wall of water coming down at him, and Bumpy is yelling, "Hey, giddy up!" But the car won't giddy up, and that wall of water turns the car over, and Bumpy scrambles out and watches the new car float down the stream. When Bumpy finally got home, he got a scolding from his father and an apple pie from his mother. "Why'd she give him an apple pie?" Brian asked Sophie. "Because she was grateful that he was alive, that's why," Sophie said. "So, how do you know this story anyway?" Brian said. "Hush up, Brian," Uncle Doc said. But Sophie said, "Because Bumpy told it to me. That's how I know it." You could tell Brian wanted to say something else, but he didn't. No one did. I was sitting there, thinking about Bumpy getting out of that car, and his mother giving him an apple pie. Today, Sophie and Uncle Doc each juggled 3 pretzel packets for a couple minutes. They were so excited. I felt pretty good myself. I'm a teacher.
Okay. I forgot to tell you something. En la última parte, when Sophie is telling her story, ella, ¿dónde es que dice? Ajá, aquí. Dice, when Bumpy was a young man, remember that we're talking about Sophie's grandfather, okay? When Bumpy was a young man, he lived on a farm and his family was very poor. So they didn't have money. They didn't even have a car or a truck. No tenían ni un carro ni un camión. But one day they traded 2 mules for a car. The only thing was, no one knew how to drive it. Bumpy had ridden in cars, though he didn't think it would be all that hard to drive one. Entonces, they bought a car, ellos compraron un carro, pero el problema estaba en que nadie sabía manejarlo. Bumpy said, "Oh, I want to drive it," ¿verdad? Porque él se había montado en carros, mas él no había manejado carros, ¿ok? Entonces, he went to pick it up, and then when he was driving home, it was raining, and él estaba crossing a creek que es como un laguito, and there was no bridge or anything. When they walked that way, or ridden the mules, they would just wade it across. Okay, él dice que usualmente solamente cruzaban y ya. Sin embargo, now it was raining, meaning the creek was no longer small, but it was big. Y había mucha corriente. The water was rushing and rushing so fast. ¿Qué creen ustedes que pasó ahí? What happened to the car? Okay, entonces, what happened to the car? ¿Qué pasa? The car turned over, dio la vuelta. Bumpy got out, pero el car se fue con la corriente. Okay? Dice, when he got home, his dad scolded him. Scolding him es cuando te digo, Hiana, o Valerie, ta, 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 ta. Okay? Un regaño. And then his mother gave him a pie. Okay? ¿Por qué ustedes creen que la mamá le dio un pie y el papá le regañó? ¿Qué le estaba tratando de decir la mamá con eso? Con el pie. Oh, his mother was telling him she was happy, she was grateful, aquí dice. Why did she give him an apple pie? Y entonces la respuesta es, because she was grateful that he was alive. Ok, a ella le importaba más obviamente su hijo que el carro. Okay, and I think that's the end of the story. Yes, it is. Ok, ahora lo que vamos a hacer es que vamos a buscar el study guide. Aquí está. The wonder, tenemos que saber los definitions se los tienen que saber, ok, háganse preguntas, all of that, eso tienen que sabérselo. Ahora, ¿cuál es el genre of the story? I'm going to pause, acuérdense, pausar el video, answer it yourself, and then yo les digo la respuesta, ok, entonces, the genre of the story is realistic fiction. Who is the author of the story? Aquí les puse páginas y todo. Who is the author of the story? Let's see. Because I don't remember. Shh. The author of the story is Sharon Creech. Okay? Sharon Creech. That's the author of the story. Okay, we're going to go back here. Así. A ver, next question dice, who is the main character of the story? Acuérdense de contestar en oraciones completas. Si pueden, por favor, escríbanlo en un papel. No solamente digan oral. Porque, o sea, al escribir a uno se le quedan mejor las cosas. ¿Ok? Who is the main character of the story? Sophie is the main character of the story. What is the primary setting of the story and where is Sophie traveling to? What is the primary setting? Primary setting is on a boat, on a sailboat called, se llamaba The Wanderer. Okay? Y where is Sophie traveling to? Sophie was traveling to England. Okay? Next question is, what happened to Sophie's parents? What happened to Sophie's parents? Y nos dice, how did they die? How did Sophie's parents die? Okay, Sophie's parents died in a boating accident. Okay? Repito otra vez. Sophie's parents died in a boating accident. A ver, luego dice, describe three-sided Sophie. Okay? Eso está, let me put myself over here. ¿Qué página dice que está eso? No lo puse muy mal. A ver. Aquí está. It's on the second page. ¿Ok? Entonces nos dice acá. Dice, Sophie tenía a dreamy side, esta es primera, a logical side, and then a hard-headed side. Completo, yo lo aceptaría completo de esta manera, sería dreamy and romantic, logical and down to earth, y la última es hard-headed and impulsive. Esos serían los tres lados que tiene Sophie. Okay, next question is, identify examples of figurative language and what each means. Okay, cuando el papá dice, porque el papá es el que llama a Sophie three-sided Sophie, cuando ella está en dreamland is a metaphor for not thinking logically. Okay, una metáfora cuando ella no está pensando lógicamente. Acuérdense que dream es un sueño. Earthland, su palabra clave acá es earth, planeta Tierra, significa que ella sí está pensando logically. Mule land is a metaphor for being hard-headed. Una persona que es cabeza dura. Una persona que es terca. Okay? Who is Sophie traveling with? Who is Sophie traveling with? She's traveling with her 3 uncles and 2 cousins. ¿Cuáles son esos 3 uncles? Stu, Mo y Doc. ¿Y cuáles son esos 2 cousins? Cody and Brian. Okay? Okay, next question is, what are the 2 reasons Sophie's mother is okay with Sophie going on this trip? What are the 2 reasons? Eso lo hablamos. Vayan a sacar la página, dice page 229, paragraph 10. Okay? What are the 2 reasons? 2 reasons fue que Uncle Doc le dijo a ella un extensive list of provisions. Y la segunda es que la mamá pensaba que Bumpy was on the other side of the ocean. O sea, que el abuelo estaba on the other side of the ocean. A ver, who is Bumpy? Esto acabamos de contestar, but if you don't know, you can go back to this. Page 230, paragraph 11. Okay, who is Bumpy? Bumpy is Sophie's adoptive grandfather. Next question. What is the Wanderer? What is the Wanderer? Okay, the Wanderer is a sailboat. Okay. Aquí tenemos que ir a la primera parte de la historia. Dice, from what point of view is the story told in the first 2 chapters? So we have to go back to the story in los primeros 2 chapters. Quitamos esto. Tenemos aquí chapter 1 y aquí tenemos chapter 2. Entonces, ¿quién dice la historia? Fíjense aquí, it tells us here. ¿Quién dice la historia? Sophie. ¿Ok? Sophie en los primeros 2 chapters is who tells the story. Ahora dice, in the chapter of slugs and banana, who is the narrator? O sea que el narrador acá cambia. Vamos a ir al chapter que dice slugs and bananas. Who is our narrator? Cody. Okay, in el chapter the slug and bananas, Cody is the narrator. Next question. What element of figurative language is being used in the following line? Me están preguntando qué elemento del lenguaje figurativo. Metaphor, simile, hyperbole, personification, todas esas. Dice, Uncle Doc calls the wind a capricious lady. Okay, we're making a comparison. ¿Cuál era el element que nos decía comparison? Acuérdense que está dos, está simile y está metaphor. ¿Cuál es de estos? La respuesta es metaphor, okay? The answer is metaphor. ¿Por qué? Porque está comparando sin usar like or as. Okay, our next question is, what was Sophie's dream about? Y luego dice, why would Brian want to kill the seagull? Vamos a la página 239, paragraph 93. Let's go to page, tengo que pasar la página. No sé en qué página estamos ahorita. 234, 235, 36, 37, 38, 39. Should be this one. Okay. Aquí, when she has a dream, remember that they're in the middle of the ocean with no food. Okay. Y de la nada llega una gaviota y Brian dice, kill it, kill it. Acuérdense que kill significa, okay, matar. Entonces, why would Brian, acuérdense que why significa me tienen que dar una razón. You have to answer with because. Why would Brian want to eat the seagull? You have to think. Conecten el sueño y la razón por la cual Brian se quería comer a la gaviota. Why? ¿Ok? ¿Cuál es la respuesta? Because they were in the middle of the ocean with no food. Our next question is, dice, briefly summarize the bumpy story that Sophie tells the crew. Que la historia que le dijo Bumpy, perdón, la historia de Bumpy que Sophie contó. What happened? Okay, think. Go back. Aquí nos dice también. Go back to page 240, paragraph 98. What happened? What was what was Bumpy's story? Think. Póngale pausa al video, okay? No solamente escuchen la respuesta, en realidad es pensar. Okay? Entonces, what's the answer? Well, Bumpy's family bought a new car. ¿Verdad? They bought a new car. ¿Qué pasa? Nobody knew how to drive the car. Bumpy volunteered to drive the car. And cuando él estaba manejando, when he was driving, he was gonna cross the creek. It was raining. It was raining. So they said the water was rushing and rushing. ¿Y qué pasa? The car turned over. Bumpy salió, but the car went away. Y se fue el carro. Okay? When he got home, su papá le dijo, ta, 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 ta. Okay? He scolded him, and his mother gave him an apple pie. ¿Por qué le daría un apple pie? Think, esto lo dijimos también. Aquí dice, why did Bumpy's mother give him an apple pie? Because she was grateful that Bumpy was alive. Eso fue lo que más le importó a ella, that Bumpy was alive. ¿Ok? Según la segunda historia no la vamos a leer completa porque es más facts. ¿Qué pasa? Esta historia sí tenían que entender el contexto completo. Sin embargo, acá vamos a irnos más al grano. Ok, las definiciones se las tienen que saber. Por favor, estudienselas del libro. What is the genre of the story? Well, let's check. I think it's a poetry, creo. A ver. Sí, it's a narrative poetry, okay. That is a story. That is a story, good job. What was my next question? No, the genre of the story. Know who the author of the text is. ¿Cuál es el author? Our author is Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Ese es nuestro autor. Next question. What is the setting of the story? Where does it take place? ¿Dónde toma lugar esto? Well, let's check. Esta no se lean. Esta parte del poema va a ser muy complicado si la leen ustedes solitas. Léanse la parte de los facts. ¿Ok? Que no es esto tampoco. Sino que es esta. Okay, where does the story take place? The story takes place in Lexington, Massachusetts. Okay, ahí toma lugar la historia. Perdón, me están escribiendo. Okay, Lexington, Massachusetts. Okay. Y si sería más específica, o sea, yo diría on an evening of April, es esta parte. April 18, 1777, 75, perdón. Voy a subrayar estas dos cosas. Déjenme ver. What's the next question? Okay, who is Paul Revere? What did he do? Okay, who is Paul Revere? Aquí nos dice Paul Revere era un express writer to carry information. Okay. Bueno, en realidad lo importante que él hizo fue que él informó y anunció que los británicos de English, the British, were coming to attack. Okay, eso fue lo importante que él hizo. Okay. Okay. What did Paul Revere tell his friend to do if the British were coming? Aquí les puse la página. ¿Qué pasa? Let's go back. This page 280. Eso también lo podemos decir acá. Dice, Paul Revere contacted a friend and instructed him to shine 2 lanterns in the tower of the Old North Church as a signal in case. Dice, 2 lanterns significaba que los British troops venían by sea y 1 lantern significa que venían by land. Pero ¿qué pasa? He told his friend to hang a lantern, o sea, que pindara una lámpara con esas instrucciones. 2 lamps, eso no es 2. 2 lamps significa by sea, o sea, por el mar. Y luego 1 lamp significa by land. Dios mío, Jesucristo. What is? Ok, aquí nos preguntan, what did 1 hanging lantern mean? ¿Qué significa una sola linterna, una sola lámpara? And what did 2 hanging lanterns mean? Ok. Know what a rhyme scheme is and be able to identify it. Okay, what is a rhyme scheme? Esto es un rhyme scheme. Voy a ponerle un ejemplo so you can see. Rhyme scheme. Aquí lo vemos con colores. Ay, creo que esta estaba mejor. Let me see this one. Oh, that's a video. Great. Ay, pero puedo copiar esa imagen. Y la puedo poner acá en Word. Right. A ver, acá. It worked. Awesome. No tan grande. Ok. ¿Qué es un rhyme scheme? Un rhyme scheme es básicamente el patrón de rima de un texto. O de un poema o de algo. Por ejemplo, aquí nos dice. Y siempre se mira, es la última palabra nada más. The one who brought me down to earth. ¿Ok? ¿Qué pasa? A ese se le denomina A. And help me every day. ¿Qué pasa? Earth y day no riman. Entonces está A y esta es B. Siguiente. The one who gracefully gave me birth. Earth, birth. Rima. Entonces está A. And said I love you in every way. they, way. Riman, entonces esta es B. The next one, the one who taught me everything. Esta no rima con ninguna de las otras, así que le ponemos C. Like how to crawl and walk. No rima con ninguna de las anteriores, le ponemos D. The one who taught me how to sing. Everything, everything, sing. Okay, riman. Entonces we have C, C. Y la otra, after learning how to talk. Walk, talk. They rhyme. Entonces tienen lo mismo. Eso es lo que significa un rhyme scheme. Y cuando me ponen qué tipo de rhyme scheme es, lo único que ustedes van a poner es este orden. Por ejemplo, el rhyme scheme de esto es A. Voy a dejar ponerlo en grande. Eso no está en grande. I have to move this. That's too big. Ok, el rhyme scheme de esto es A, B, C, D, C, D. Ok, ese es el rhyme scheme de esto. Para que entiendan, eso es lo que significa un rhyme scheme. Ok. Our next question is, ya casi terminamos, hold on with me. What does the poet mean when he says the fate of a nation was writing that night? Eso está en la página 282. Okay, we have three more questions. A ver, page 282, aquí volvemos. Acá. Hoy por eso tengo que revisar ahorita. 282. Let me check, I'm checking. Hold on. 282. Ajá. No. Bueno, ¿qué significa eso? Ah, perdón, no está bien lo que es. Ajá. What does the poet mean when he says the fate of a nation was writing that night? ¿Qué significa eso? Entonces dice, Paul Revere's ride would alert the colonists how the British would attack. The ride had the potential to ensure that the British would be defeated. ¿Qué pasa? Ahí dice, la traducción de eso es el destino de la nación. Estaba riding, significa, ese verbo se está usando ahí, que le están dando a caballo. Cuando no dice que va a andar a caballo, no dice que está riding a horse. ¿Ok? O estás horseback riding. Que estaban dando esa noche. Entonces dice Paul Revere's ride, el caballo, ¿verdad? Con Paul Revere, iba a alertar a los colonistas, o sea, a la gente en Estados Unidos, el ataque de los ingleses o de los británicos, y entonces que él tenía en su poder, o sea, él tenía el potencial de asegurar de que los británicos fueran, ¿cómo se llama? Defeated, fueran vencidos ese día, ¿ok? Eso es lo que significa. The fate of a nation was writing that night, significa eso. Que Paul Revere tenía el potential, tenía el poder, perdón, de, ¿cómo se llama? De asegurarse de que los British would be defeated that night, ¿ok? Que se los pudieran vencer. Okay, let's go to our last three questions. Who was going to attack? I literally just answered that question for you. Who was going to attack? The British. The British were going to attack. Who did the troops plan to arrest? Nos dice my book 1, page 284. Let's go there, page 284. Vamos ahí. Who did the British want to arrest? Aquí nos dice. Aquí está. Supposedly, these troops planned to arrest patriots Samuel Adams and John Hancock. Okay? Samuel Adams and John Hancock. Okay? And then our next question, who were the regulars? ¿A quién se le llamaban los regulars? Y nos dice que está en la página 284, which is right here. The two lanterns meant that the British troops, called the regulars, o sea, los regulars eran los British troops, las tropas británicas. Okay, that is the end of your test. Siento que la parte que está más extensa, sin embargo es la más interesante, es la de The Wonder. Por favor, estudien, vean el video, copien, escríbanme. Please, 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 please. I want you to do well on the test. Please watch this video. Escuchen, no solamente pásenlo rápido. O sea, el punto es de que leamos la historia juntos, analicemos la historia juntos. Esta no la leímos porque en realidad es algo más histórico, es un poco más aburrido. Entonces, por eso me fui directo a la parte de las preguntas. ¿ok? El critical vocabulary se lo tienen que saber. Estudien el critical vocabulary, ¿ok? Busquen en internet oraciones. Como saben usar ChatGPT, díganle, ChatGPT, dame oraciones con este critical vocabulary sin darme la respuesta. Entonces ustedes háganlo, lo resuelven y luego ven y le dicen ChatGPT, dame las respuestas y eso les va a ayudar, ¿ok? If you have any questions, please, please, please text me, ¿ok? Espero que este video les haya ayudado o les vaya a ayudar, mejor dicho. Let me stop this and we stop recording here.